Hi, and welcome back to Low Man Wins Draft Grade Editions. We're here to tackle the NFC West with my main man, Alex Kramer. How you doing, Alex?
Ready to get through the last NFC conference we have to do today.
Yeah. Um, you know, I think the NFC West probably had one of the worst showings in all of football, but we're going to start out with probably their best showing in the Arizona Cardinals. I liked a lot of what they did. I think Arizona getting their foundation piece in Isaiah Simmons in the first round was a great get. Josh Jones falling to them in the third. I don't know how they let that happen. Uh, Getting Lecky Fotu was one of my favorite players in the draft, a pure nose tackle space heater, which they are missing. Great value there. Rashard Lords is the guy I think people are sleeping on, and I love getting him there. And then Evan Weaver is another good linebacker. And then Eno Benjamin, there's nothing wrong with getting a playmaker in the seventh round who fell. Like I liked almost every pick they made. My only gripe would be that I think that getting Josh Jones bailed them out from what I think might have been a mistake. I think as much as I love Isaiah Simmons, I think they really needed offensive linemen for Kyler Murray. But, I graded the draft as a whole, so it got an A.
Yeah, I mean this is one of the rare drafts where I look at it and I love every player. I legitimately love every pick that they made. This is an A plus for me. I mean, I you can make the argument that they should have taken a tackle in the first round, but they got a guy that if they would have traded back in the first and taken Josh Jones, not many people would have faulted them for it, and they got him in the third round. I think that's insane value. Isaiah Simmons is too good to pass up on at 8. He's going to transform that defense, a defensive playmaker. He doesn't have to have a position. He's going to play defense. Rashard Lawrence made every single player in that LSU front seven better. You need a player like that on your defensive line. I think he's one of the most underrated players since the entire draft.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a great high level starter from day one. Iki Fotu, great player at Utah. He made people better around him as well. Different players, I think they can play together and make both of them can make Chandler Jones better. I really, really like Evan Weaver. He's a really hardworking guy.
Yeah, I really did too.
And Benjamin, I thought he could go in the 4th or 5th round. I mean, I really liked him as a pass catching running back. He's a really good pass catcher. He's got some power to his game. I think he can be really good there. And after you trade David Johnson, there's some carries alongside Kenny Drake. And I think, Benjamin could take some of them. Every pick that they made in this draft was great. Cliff Kingsbury is doing something right. You saw him in that house. I mean, great draft for the Cardinals overall.
Yeah, he seems to be enjoying himself. I mean, the only thing with the Simmons pick is that I don't know how to fairly grade it because I do think they probably should have gone tackle at that point. But you know what? You got Josh Jones later. He bailed you out. I mean, you didn't have a second round pick, which has always been like the reasons. Like you got to make value where you can. So getting their offense, getting their defensive star earlier. Hopefully Patrick Peterson can play football long enough for this team to be a real contender because that's one of my favorite players ever who probably will never end up with a ring. But moving on, we're going to move on to a draft class that I really want to talk about. The Los Angeles Rams lost Todd Gurley, arguably the centerpiece of their whole team. Have been living in a terrible cap situation recently. And Kramer, take it off. You lead this one. I have some thoughts about the Los Angeles draft.
So the Rams had the worst offensive line in the NFL last season. They didn't take an offensive lineman until pick 250.
Yeah.
I like Cam Akers. I really do. I think he's a really good running back. You can argue about his order of the running backs. I think he's a really good running back. I feel awful for him because he was running behind one of the worst offensive lines in Power 5 college football last year at Florida State, and now he's running behind the worst offensive line that didn't get any better this offseason. Van Jefferson's one of the best route runners in this class. They weren't needs. I mean, they'll be good, but I mean, I'm worried that Akers is going to end up just like Todd Gurley in a couple of years because his line's so crappy. I mean, they took a kicker before an O-lineman. They took a kicker before an O-lineman. I don't understand the strategy. It's a C- from me because I do like Akers and Jefferson quite a bit. I think Terrell Burgess can be a really good player. Terrell Lewis, if he's on the field, can be a starting pass rusher in the NFL. He can be a really high-level player. There's significant injury concerns there. I like Bryson Hopkins in the 4th. He's a so tight end. Can flex out. He can do a lot of things. But I can't get over taking a kicker before you take an offensive lineman in this draft. It makes no sense to me.
This is my the Packers are the worst, and this is my least favorite draft class in all football. There wasn't a pick I understood. Like Cam Akers, fine. You lost Todd Gurley. You got to get your second guy, but you invested in kind of the same-ish player last year in Darrell Henderson in the third round. I have some faith in who you're drafting, and also J.K. Dobbins was on the board.
No complaints there, man.
Yeah, but then that didn't seem like the need for me. And then I love Van Jefferson, but wide receiver is not what you needed. You have one of the best wide receiving cores in football. You have Cooper Kupp, Josh Reynolds, Robert Woods. Why'd you need another Robert Woods? It made no sense to me. You have no offensive line to speak of, not to mention some of the players I like Bryson Hopkins. You have 3 of those on your roster. You have literally he's Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee all over again. I don't know why they need another one. And then Terrell Burgess, I like him, but you have 2 of them. They have their safety position. That's not the part of the secondary they need to fix. They need to fix opposite Jalen Ramsey. And then you need to get Jordan Fuller great. And then Clay Johnson was the only pick of a need. And Tremaine Ankrum were the only picks of needs I saw late in the draft. And they're in the 6th and 7th round. And draft a kicker. I don't care. But also speaking of which, does that say something about Lance Zierlein that he's maybe in trouble, health-wise? I don't know.
I'm not going to read into the kicker situation.
The Rams are a team that has to contend in the next 2 years. And it's not I'm saying that they're ready. It's the way their cap is structured. They have too much invested in Jalen Ramsey, or not just invested. They have to invest in Jalen Ramsey, or they have too much invested in Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, and Jared Goff to waste this. So they have to contend now. But they just restocked it places they already had. I don't get this draft at all. Not one pick I liked.
I mean, this is the classic, value over need. I think all of these picks were solid, except maybe the kicker. But the strategy just makes no sense. I mean, I like the players, so I gave it a C-. But I mean, drafting good players at positions where they're not really going to play is not really helpful when you have glaring needs on the offensive line.
I just always thought even when they drafted the player, there were still better players at those positions left on the board. A wide receiver, you took Van Jefferson, fine, but there were still guys I thought Devin Duvernay was at a place they needed, or James Proche or Gabriel Davis. I thought there were better.
Proche didn't go into the 6th round, man.
I know, or Donovan Peoples-Jones maybe.
Also didn't go into the 6th round.
Something's wrong. And then you got running back. There was J.K. Dobbins or Zach Moss, who I thought probably were better players for that system. I don't know what the Rams were doing. I think people will often say well, the team's no better than you, and I'm I mean myself. I don't think this GM does, but I think that this is a team that could see a house cleaned at the end of the season. That this season didn't work. I think this team could be drafting in the top 10 next year. The GM I don't think is going to be there much longer, and it's going to be how much goodwill did Sean McVay build in the last couple of years.
We'll see if Jared Goff can take a step, because if not, this team's going to be in big trouble.
Oh God, I wouldn't bet my future on that. All right, then the next team we're going to talk about is a team that, I gotta respect. They only draft for themselves. They don't draft based on the board. They draft based on theirs. So the Seattle Seahawks, every year they take a player, and I'm like, why? And then somehow they always end up with an 11-3 record. So they're always a Super Bowl contender. So you gotta imagine that they're, I didn't like the Jordan Brooks pick over Patrick Queen. That made no sense to me. Damian Lewis in the third was a good get. DJ Dallas is another running back to like their many that they've been drafting. Darrell Taylor was a great get, but maybe a tad too early. Uh, Freddie Swain, sure. They drafted the wrong tight end from LSU. And then Alton Robinson was a guy who I thought was a second-round player, and they drafted basically Darrell Taylor number 2. And they got a good blocking tight end, Colby Parkinson. This draft, not a lot of it made sense to me, but I could like kind of see what they're doing.
I mean, I really like the Jordan Brooks pick. I really, really like the Jordan Brooks pick. I think he fits right in there. It's got that Matt Wells connection with, oh my gosh, Bobby Wagner. That you're hoping that they built this team around Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson. So at this point, you're hoping that he can replace Bobby Wagner in a couple of years, and for now, they're going to play alongside each other. I like the pick there. He's arguably the best Mike linebacker in this class. I think Queen and Murray are probably going to play a little more outside, but I think Brooks was a good pick. I think Queen's a better player, so I don't necessarily like the value there. But as a Ravens fan, I'm not going to complain about it. If everything goes right, he replaces Wagner. But Taylor has all the good traits in the world. He could become a presence off the edge, but I don't trust the Seahawks edge scouting. They've drafted they've drafted edge rushers in the top 3 rounds. It seems like every year, and it seems like every year they have one that busts. One thing I will say, DJ Dallas, very similar to Cam Akers in the fact that Miami's offensive line was just awful last year, and he still was solid. I think that DJ Dallas could take over from Rashad Penny. I think or Chris Carson. I think that he's a really good player. I really liked that pick. It's just such a Seahawks draft. It's like some of these guys and like Alton Robinson could become great. I think DJ Dallas could be good. Colby Parkinson was a 5-star recruit. That's about all I can say about him. Damian Lewis was. I didn't think he was better than a lot of guys on that. I don't think he was better than Cushenberry. I didn't think he was better than Sadiq Charles. He was a solid player on that offensive line. I think the people around him made him better. It's a good draft for me. I don't think it's great. It's a C for me. It's just very very Seahawks.
Really, I gave it a C. It sounds like I didn't like it as much as you did, and I gave it a C+. Because the only reason I gave it a C+ is like, listen, the Seahawks do this all the time, and it just seems to work for them. So I gave it a C+, like bowing my hat to John Schneider and Pete Carroll. Like, I don't know what you do. You live in a completely different football world up there in the Northwest. So that's my grade for the Seattle Seahawks. Now it comes to an interesting draft that was basically a 2-player draft, and everyone knows it. The San Francisco 49ers took 2 players early on with their 2 first-round picks, and Brandon Ayuk and Javon Kinlaw. I thought those were perfect gets for them. I would have given them A's. The rest of the draft didn't impress me. At the end of the day, I gave this draft a B because I liked their picks early on, but like they didn't not get impact players later in the draft. They got maybe 1 developmental tackle and a backup tight end later, a backup to a backup tight end in the later drafts. I think the Niners knew this was a 2-man class, but they look at what the Saints did with their little draft capital and look what they did, and compared to the Niners, just wasn't impressive to me. I think I gave it I'm sitting here. I'm going to give it a B.
I hated this draft. I hated this draft so much, and just from a strategy perspective, I gave this draft a D. I love Javon Kinlaw. You traded one of the best defensive tackles for a top 15 pick and drafted a player to replace him. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. You got a player who, if he is the best version of himself, will be the player that you traded him for. I don't understand it at all. Brandon Ayuk is okay. I like him in the offense. I thought he was a late 2nd-round player. Don't like the pick very much. You had 5 picks in this class, and you took a backup tight end as one of those picks. I hate this class. Juwan Jennings could be something. He's really aggressive. I mean, he's a dog. I love having him in the wide receiver room, but I mean, I just this class I don't think they got better. You took a Debo Samuel copy and then you downgraded a defensive tackle. I don't see how you got better.
I disagree with you there. You know, I think that it makes sense to me what you did. I think they always intended to get Javon Kinlaw there. I think that was like the intent of why I traded Buckner. It's basically like, oh, we can't afford to pay you and everyone else, so we're just gonna have to replace you. I get that and I get that, and I think they're just as good with Javon Kinlaw there as they would be with DeForest Buckner. I don't think the trade off is that huge. And that's something against DeForest Buckner. It's all respect to Javon Kinlaw, who I loved. Brandon Ayuk, I don't know if he's a Debo Samuel clone. He's more of an Alshon Jeffrey clone. Like he's great. He's
I disagree with that 100%.
Alshon Jeffrey's not great. He's more of a Juju Smith-Schuster, or like he's bigger and he's.
I don't think he's close to that good.
What?
I mean, he's electric. He's electric with the ball in his hands, but I mean.
And listen, Kyle Shanahan has been looking for his receivers over and over and over again. I can't tell
you had the chance to get Jerry Jeudy or CD Lamb at 14.
I don't think
they had to get either of one of the best two wide receivers in this class, and you pass up on him to get the DeForest Buckner replacement, and you traded DeForest. But
I get that.
I can't understand it.
I get that, but I think Kyle Shanahan is one of like those guys that like he knows what he's looking for in a receiver, and he knows how to make them he knows how to scheme them pretty well. I think he was looking for think about it. I mean, he hasn't been the best with drafting receivers. You know, he drafted Dante Pettis, who I've been targeting in my fantasy drafts the last couple of years because I expected him to be. The Kyle Shanahan knew something I didn't. So, and then you got Jalen Hurd, who's been like his pet project. But, you know, I kind of agree with you that maybe Ayuk is not the receiver I would take, but I trust Kyle Shanahan, and he knows what he wants to do with his teams. I give this to be. I think there was more egregious picks in this draft. Like when you're the Rams and you pick. And you're trying to play basically for this year, and you pick an edge rusher who might not play football for 2 years, like it's a lot more risky picks to me in this draft. So I gave it a B because I liked their first two picks. But other than that, that's kind of where I'm standing.
Fair enough. Disagree on the strategy, but one of the weird division. Weird division. I should say that much.
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of draft capital in this division, or at least like these. It's funny how like every contending team in the NFC West, like the Rams and the Niners, basically did the same strategy. Was they hired a young offensive guru, invested in their quarterback, and basically traded it all for 1 year. Except the Niners rebounded better from losing in the Super Bowl. So
I don't think the Niners are going to be back next year. So
I think they'll still win. Like they're still going to be as good as they are. I don't think they're going to do the tailspin like the Rams are about to.
I think the Cardinals caught up a lot this offseason.
I do too, but I don't think the Rams are about to be in a tailspin. Let me tell you.
I don't necessarily disagree.
All right. Well, that's it for the NFC West. We'll come back to you with more videos. Stay tuned.